Hello, and welcome to Book 4, Chapter 22 of You Should Be Reading. This week, I'd like to talk to you about The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. That's right, one of the 5 books that has been challenged to me to read in my anniversary I Should Be Reading episode. And I've got the first one down. I'm still looking for 2 of the ones that have been suggested to me. One of them, it might take me a little bit because I want to wait for it to be in paperback because I'm a fan of paperbacks, as I covered in my paperback versus hardcovers episode. So yeah, there might be a little bit of a delay on that. Hopefully, I can get them picked up and read in the 5th book. But if not, make no mistake, I will be getting them and I will be reading them. I've still got 2 other ones that I'm going to be reading at some point already, but today it's The Devil in the White City. Now, this is one that I have owned for a while. It's been a couple of years that I've had this. I picked it up on a visit down at the States. I believe it was at Big Sleep Books was where I picked it up, and it looked interesting because it's The Devil in the White City, Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. And I looked at the back, and it mentions the man who built the World's Fair, as well as a serial killer who used the fair to lure victims to their death. And doing a little bit of a peek inside, it was actually talking about the infamous serial killer H.H. Holmes, who had the murder hotel. And I've read a little bit up about him, so that got me interested in it, so I picked it up. And it is unlike any other book that I've ever read, because most of the books I read tend to be along a narrative. They tend to have, a firm character that's telling the story, or somebody who's looking over everything telling the story. But there's always a very firm narrative flair to everything. You know you're reading a story. This book, however, read much more like a documentary. Not like watching a movie, watching a documentary. So normal books, for me anyways, are more like watching a movie. This book like a documentary because of how it was written. There's still that narrative flair in there that the author throws in, but it is basically a statement of everything that happened. Because all of this actually happened. This is documented, verifiable fact. Because they have, where is it about? Yeah, about this here. This section of the book, right in the back. All these pages. That's all his sources. And he states at the beginning of the book that everything in this book that is between quotations has been cited and sourced as being attributed to someone. That it's in some note he's read, some newspaper article, book, etc. All of it is official. Everything between quotations. And that is interesting. And it plays out, it starts with this World's Fair that they decided they were going to have to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Columbus discovering America. And it ended up going to Chicago, so Chicago had to build it. All the trials and tribulations of getting this thing built, while in the meantime, you have H.H. Holmes, who comes to Chicago and starts building his little hotel and killing people, and then his capture years later after the fair, as well as all kinds of fun stuff. There's some amazing little moments in here that really made me go, oh my god. I mean, apparently at the fair, this fair in 1893 was when Cracker Jack was first introduced and shredded wheat was first introduced. And the papers said, that's never going to take off. More like shredded doormat, lol. They didn't say lol. But yeah, and the first Ferris wheel was at the World's Fair, along with the man who designed it. Just amazing. amazing look at history and all the little things and the way people acted back then, the different time period and how everything was. It was really fascinating. And even though it's not the sort of book that I thought it was going to be, and probably not the sort of book that I would read often, it was still amazing because it dealt with all of these things. You've got, like, in the very beginning, the man who built it is there's a little bit of a snippet about him being on board the Atlantic or the Olympic, this ocean liner, and sending a telegraph to one of his friends who is coming the other way, because this guy Burnham, who is was the builder of the fair, was going to England, and as I said, one of his last remaining friends was on board another liner heading to America, and that other liner was the Titanic. Uh-huh. Uh, Little moments like that, uh, like a young girl who met a young blind girl who ended up meeting and hugging the man who invented something to allow blind people to read. I think it was it was either he invented Braille or he invented a machine that let books be printed in Braille easily. Uh, it may have been the latter, I'm not sure. But he ended up meeting this young woman, this young girl, who hugged him and told him, thanked him, and all this and that. And they mentioned in the book how years later um, he would tell his grandchildren how he met Helen Keller. There's little moments like that in here that are really quite amazing, and just just filled me with wonder seeing all that. It was amazing, simply amazing. If you like history, if you like American history, um, if you want to take a look at that sort of time period, especially if you like serial killers and stuff like that, this is a book that may interest you because it has all of that and more. Uh, yeah, it's really quite amazing. I know I've said that word many, many times in this thing, but it's one of these books that, had I known it was written the way it was, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. I'm glad I didn't know. I'm glad I challenged myself to read it finally, and I'm glad I did. it's it took me a few pages to get the hang of the way it's written because I'm used to a different sort of narrative. I'm used to reading a different sort of story. Um, but once I got used to it, everything just flowed. It was really quite nice. Um, and hearing the way people talked back then. I mean, that's 1893. That's what, a little over 100 years ago. 120. Yeah, 120 or so years ago. Uh, that people were talking like this, and that's not long ago. 120 years, it's not long at all. Uh, but the guy that did this, Burnham, he is also the same man that did, I believe, the Flatiron Building in New York. He's built so many other buildings, and they mention a number of them in here, as well as the other architects that helped with the building of the fair, how much manpower it took, how much steel it took to do, how many millions of dollars it took them to build it. I mean, simply amazing. And it won the Edgar Award for Best Fact Crime because it is a book about those crimes as well as being factual. So if any of what I've mentioned here appeals to you, and you think, yeah, I might want to check that out, uh, you should. And I hear they're doing a movie based off this book, and they're going to be getting Leonardo DiCaprio to play H.H. Holmes. I don't know if he's signed on or not, but I heard that they were going to try and get him, that they wanted him for that role. And after reading this and reading the way H.H. Holmes was portrayed, real name, I believe it was Herman Mudgett. Um, Yeah, I could see Leonardo DiCaprio doing a really bang up job of it. And he's good at period pieces. The man is good at what he does. So yeah, definitely, definitely worth your time. So I'm going to leave this episode here. Uh, as always, if you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I do new videos. Usually try and get at least one video a week, if not more. And throw a comment in the comment section. Have you read The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, or anything else by Eric Larson that you think I might be interested in? Do you know of any other books in a similar vein that you think I might be interested in? Throw a comment in the comment section. Let me know. I would love to get a discussion going with some people. And until next time, remember, you should be reading The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. And I'll see you next time.